All right. What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Join alongside Tim live in Green Bay. We're trying to get up on X here, Tim. Something went wrong there. We're going to try it again here. How you doing this evening, fellas? You're muted, brother.
Boy, we're off the rails 13 seconds in. How you doing, Clay? I'm doing good, man. How was your day, brother?
Oh, it's going good, man. I tell you, it's like you said, we are off the rails here. For some reason, it's saying an error occurred. Wait a moment and try again on X. We're going to continue trying to get it up on X. If you guys, if you're on Rumble, obviously, yeah, we're showing we're up on Rumble and YouTube, so we should be good. We'll keep trying to go live here on X and see what happens, but obviously something's going wrong there. I want to check my Twitter account just to make sure we are signed in there. I believe we're good. But, all right, so let's do this, Tim. Let's give a quick shout-out tonight to our sponsors, and that is the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Wisconsin-based since 92, specializing in Packers tickets. They're Wisconsin's largest ticket source. Got offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Got you a link in the video description here that you can click on to send you directly to theticketking.com, where you can register for free as a customer and go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. Again, that's Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. I know a lot of people are looking to get tickets for these upcoming preseason games. Make sure that you check with Ticket King first. They're going to be able to save you time and money for sure, and we appreciate them sponsoring the show. All right, Tim, we'll continue to try on Twitter here. Anything you want to hit on right off the top before we kind of dive into some of the agenda I've got here? I'd like to ask you guys that as we get ready to start the show every day, just in case there's something like, hey, man, I was thinking about this earlier today, or this came down the pike. Anything at the forefront of your mind right now?
There was an article I was trying to pull up that Zach Cruz wrote about the 53-man roster, kind of tough decisions. And I think it's not a bit. I can't get it to load. Here we are again, another technical issue. But I mean, I think this conversation is going to start to kind of stir up naturally anyway as we go here into another preseason game prep week here. Also, shout out to my mother-in-law, Miss Sherry. She'll be at the game in Denver, nice. Supporting the Packers, sitting on the Packers side of the field like a good Packer backer should. So I want to give it up to my mother-in-law. I hope she has fun out there in Mile High next week. But I think, what do you think we get into that a little bit maybe later on today? Who we think are some bubble guys, who's maybe practice squad, who's maybe going to stick around? Because it's, cuts are coming. I believe we're like 12 days away or something, 10 days away from cuts.
Yeah, I think we should do that. We've actually got Bill Huber's most recent 53-man roster projection. That'll be good as well. So we'll kind of hit on that. And again, I apologize if you guys know anyone on X or you want to go hop over to X and let everybody know we are live on YouTube. I'll try to send a tweet out right now to get everybody who normally watches on X over here. I'm not sure what's going on there. That's really strange, but I don't want to take up too much time trying to figure it out. Let's see here. Give me just a second. We'll try to throw this up on Twitter real quick. So, yeah, first things first. This was pretty cool, Tim. If you want to read this off, if you can read it while I try to get everything shared here on X real quick. I love how they filtered out the noise here, minimum of 10 snaps. So they took out some of those 3-4 snap players from the game on Saturday night. Go ahead and hit that if you want. Can you read that okay? I know it's a little bit fine print. You can turn your cam off if you need to, buddy.
Oh, I can see it. It's PFF Green Bay Packers on this is on X, I believe. Highest graded Packers in the preseason opener. At the top of the list, Julian Hicks, 84.9. You've got my boy, your boy, our boy, Grant DuBose, 84.8. Michael Pratt, the rookie phenom, sensational quarterback, 84.5. Joel Wilson, interesting addition to that tight end room, 84.4. And Robert Rochelle, 80.5. He is not safe on the practice squad. I'll just say it like that.
Telling you, man. It was Ryan Schlip actually talked about on his pod earlier today is like, man, I think he had mentioned it in one of our chats too. Robert Rochelle, if he keeps that up, it's going to be really hard to hide him on the practice squad for sure. So My big thing is Michael Pratt. And I know it was a little bit smaller sample size than obviously Sean Clifford. I did like many people were saying, like what you were saying, Tim, they were filtering out the noise and doing the adjusted completion percentage because he did have a couple throwaways, a spike, I believe, as well. So there's a lot of, when you look at that completion percentage of what was he, like 11 of 19, it was actually much better than that when you filter out all the noise, with the adjustment and everything. So Michael Pratt, though, it's wild to think that was his first game as a professional, football player in the NFL. And he's going out there and to me, he just played, granted, it wasn't like he had to make some crazy hard throws or anything like that, but just looked like he belonged. The fact that he handed that ball off and he screamed to Emmanuel Wilson outside, basically letting Emmanuel know, hey, I'm going to get up here and throw you a block. Man, you're going against some grown-ass men at the NFL level. And the fact that he's not, it's like the moment isn't too big for him. I think that's a great testament to his first time on the field as an NFL player for sure.
He's a football player, man. That's we always like to throw comparisons with our Hall of Famers, right? So that's definitely Brett Favre's school of thought right there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Brett would get out there and throw that lead block too, no problem. And Brett was a heck of a quarterback, of course, but I'll always remember Brett as just a great football player and a great teammate, great leader. So Michael Pratt looks exactly like he's cut from that cloth, like you were saying, Clayton. He didn't look like he had rookie yips at all, or like any nervousness really in the pocket, nothing at all. Usually guys, especially in their first few reps, man, they look shaky when they're out there with, like you said, NFL speed and NFL talent and, the NFL hit stick capability that some of these guys have. And he was fearless, man. And, I think, it's no secret what Michael Pratt's been through in just the last few years of his young life, in his personal life. And, we talk about the things that Jordan and a lot of guys on our team have been through with adversity. Speaking of, Jair Alexander dealing with the death in the family, our condolences to the Alexander family. These types of trials and tribulations, they build character, and they do it pretty quick when you're in a grown man's league and you're a young player. So it's a testament to the way Michael Pratt kind of approaches the game, I think, which is what we're seeing out there. And that's why we're having the conversations we're having about, the QB2 position battle. There's some of the fan base that thinks that Sean Clifford for sure is your QB2. And then there's a lot of debate that, Michael Pratt may actually make this football team. So we'll see how this all plays out.
Absolutely, man. I've actually got a video here. I'll see if I can pull it up. This was Matt LaFleur earlier today, and he was asked about the Michael Pratt block. This was kind of cool here. Get this off the screen. And they asked him, what did you think about Michael Pratt essentially throwing that block for Emmanuel Wilson? Let's see what head coach Matt LaFleur had to say about it.
Situations.
On the Emmanuel Wilson run where Michael Pratt gets around and throws his shoulder into the lead block, do you like that, or do you want your quarterback to not do that with his throwing arm?
I think, it's cool to see. I just think you got to pick and choose the times to do that because it can go south in a hurry. But no, I think it definitely brought some excitement to the sidelines. Those guys, the team sees it, they recognize it. It got a good reaction in the team meeting. So, sometimes you gotta do that.
So, in other words,
our guys better wake up with their piss out, like I said before.
Throws his shoulder into the lead block. Do you like?
Exactly. I don't know. I just love it, man. I love that little grin he gave too, man. It was just kind of like, the guys are going to love to see it. And, it's what made Brett Favre in the 90s was the fact that he wasn't willing to take a game off. That has a real effect on your teammates.
Yep.
There's some people hearing my voice right now that work, everybody works normal jobs. And I'm not trying to say one job is more important than another or one job is harder than another. But when you get into blue collar work, and I know a lot of our listeners, especially down in and around Milwaukee, you guys and gals know what it's like to really roll up your sleeves and go and try to provide for your family on a daily basis. And when you go to work, I feel comfortable saying a good portion of the people you work with really don't give a damn about what they're doing. It's just, hey, let me clock in, clock out, and whatever. But some of you're probably thinking of one or two coworkers where you're like, that dude makes me want to come into work. That dude makes me want to be better at my job. That dude makes me want to carry my load so he doesn't have to pick up the slack or she doesn't have to pick up the slack. I think that's a real thing in an organization when you're trying to build, not just build, but protect culture once it is built. And I think that's a lot about, really when you see Michael Pratt do something like that, the same as you've seen Brett and you've seen Aaron do it from time to time. I remember Aaron throwing a pick one time, running down the sideline and laying the dude out that caught the interception. That's going to make his teammates, when you get back in that huddle and you grab that offensive lineman by the face mask and like, hey, I need you to block him. Like, pick it up. It means more because you're willing to sacrifice your body for your teammates. They're going to want to play harder for you. And I know it kind of goes without saying, but that stuff really matters, man. It does.
Yeah. It's like when Brett used to hop up, he'd take a sack or get a, Warren Sapp or somebody just drills him. And then, Brett stands up. Woo, great hit, man. Is that all you got? Come on, you can bring more than that. Well, that's firing up his O-line, out there in the moment. They're going, man, we can't let nobody touch him. This is crazy. And it is. It's what breeds excellence. It's what makes guys go to war for each other every single snap, every game, every year. And that's how you, like you said, you build and cultivate your culture that way. And you're able to maintain it through long stretches. That's why it's, no secret why, there are certain organizations in the NFL that stay relevant for decades at a time. And other ones struggle to even gain any kind of significance in this league. And it has a lot to do with culture and, are you building a team or are you collecting talent, Yeah,
exactly. And Matt LaFleur actually answered a question. He got a little bit chirpy today at the press conference.
Tupac LaFleur. All right.
Tupac LaFleur was on hand today. And the tweet I put out, I put, quote, "I want to vomit when I hear number one receiver." Packers head coach Matt LaFleur talks about each receiver's skill sets and how each receiver's skill sets can be used depending how they want to attack their current opponent. And this whole culture thing that we're talking about, it begins and ends with the head coach. Period. Case closed. And I love how every time they try to mention number one receiver, they be in the media, us fans, we're as guilty as anyone, right? When they mention it, he's like, you want to keep that out of the locker room. The thought that this guy is better than everyone else and he's more important and he gets his touches, and it's a good way to get your ass kicked in the NFL. There's no two ways about that. But I want you to try to hear the question and listen to LaFleur respond. And then, of course, Jason Wilde responds and tries to say, hey, no, I wasn't saying that. But, again, you mentioned number one receiver. This is the type of response that you're going to get from Matt LaFleur. So, here we go. Here was Coach LaFleur when asked about number one receiver once again.
We kept asking about, do you need a number one receiver and stuff like that in the offseason? You guys have so much talent in that, especially in the top four, but even beyond that. Where does Wicks fit into that picture?
I get I want to vomit every time I hear number one receiver, to be honest with you. It drives me crazy. That's something that you guys talk about. I feel like we got a bunch of them. So, but I think they're all kind of, I think the beauty of them is they're all capable of doing many things, which gives us a lot of versatility from an offensive perspective in terms of how we use these guys and deploy their talents. I think, especially those, I would say top four guys, they're all capable of being a number one in some capacity. And it's just, how do we want to attack somebody and where do we want to put those guys? And it allows us, who's going to get the ball? I don't know. It could change on a week-to-week basis. We saw it last year. And then we have Bo Belton come in and be our first 100-yard receiver versus Minnesota. So I think it just, again, it frees us up in terms of just from an offensive standpoint and how we attack people.
So I don't want you vomiting, but
appreciate that.
I wasn't asking about number one. What I was driving at.
So he said, I don't want you to vomit. This is Wilde. And that's not what I was asking you. He knows that's not what you were asking. He's, again, it's
talking about what you just said. You just brought up number one receiver. Stop saying that.
And every time a head coach speaks to the media, he's speaking to his team.
Yep.
So Brian Billick, taught by Bill Walsh 101, right? Anytime you speak to a camera, anytime you speak to a microphone, you are talking to your team. So what did he just say to his team? I don't want to hear none of this trash about somebody being a number one receiver. It's all about protect. He's built the culture. Now you're protecting it. And it irks me a little bit when people get snippy back to him. Well, that's not what I was asking you. Oh my God. It's not personal. Let's stop being so damn sensitive and understand what he's trying to accomplish.
Yep.
Like it's leadership is what it is. It just baffles me. Anyway, here's the second part.
Is that exact issue. Is you got 4 guys and 5 through 8, there's some pretty damn good guys there too. But what's the challenge for you as you choose personnel groups, as you pick and choose how you get a guy? Like there's times when Wicks gets the fewest snaps of those 4 with the ones, and then you see what he did on
He only got 1 snap the other day, and he made a hell of a play. So, I just, that could be tough. Maybe we'll be a 10 personnel team. Who knows?
I love it. maybe we can just march 10 out there. You know what I'm saying? Again, I love how he cut him off again. He's like, he only got 1 touch. Like,
and I'm not going to pick on Wildy here, but like, was there a question in there? In any, like, where was the question? Like, I heard a lot of setup. I heard a lot of narrative, but I didn't. Where's the question?
Right. It's I'm so proud that Matt LaFleur is the Packers head coach, and he is so aware to sniff that stuff out. And people used to refer to Bill Belichick as an a-hole. He doesn't tell you anything at the pressers, blah, 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 blah. He did the same exact type of – now, he did it very dry, right? Very, very just cut and dry, and it was boring. But it's the same thing. No, snip that. Let's snip that in the butt, man. We're not talking wide receiver 1 here, right? Coach Lynn in the chat said Matt looks pissed now when he does interviews, annoyed. I don't know how they do it, Coach. I really don't. Like,
because they have to. That's probably the only reason.
Right. Well, yeah, they wouldn't be doing it if they weren't forced to. Yeah. Coach Lynn says we could ask better questions than these guys. And again, I don't want to get into a pissing contest with media members, and I appreciate what they do. I mean, it's any bit of information we get out of a coach because someone asks a question. Hey, thank you for your service. I just don't like the whole snarkiness that comes with, like, it's almost like it's entitlement. You know what I mean? And again, that's not specifically towards Wildy. It's just, I think it's society in general. It's just like, you owe me something here. You owe me an answer. I don't owe you I don't owe you nothing. All right. So I don't know. That kind of bothers me. But let's see here. All right. Next thing. We had a tweet that went out. I thought this was cool. Bill Huber tweeted this out and said Jacob Monk was ready, quote, to rip somebody's lips off, end of quote, before the game is what Buck said. I thought that was really cool because we're talking culture here. We're talking mindset. We're talking, this offense kind of having that aggressive approach. Everything you hear about Jacob Monk, man, it sounds like the coaching staff really see him as a long-term answer. Might not come in that form this year, Tim, but I think long-term they see something in this kid. And every time that they talk about him, every time his name gets mentioned, it's never, this dude's a great offensive lineman. It's always, he was a captain. It's how he works. It's all, you know what I mean? It just seems like he's one of those dudes that, hell or high water, he's going to make a good professional football player in due time. But I thought that was cool that Buck has singled him out, said he was ready to rip somebody's lips off. That was a line my dad used to use all the time, too. He would say that all the time. So that really hit home with me. Of course, Coach Butkus, his uncle, was the great Dick Butkus. So, he got smacked around a little bit as a kid. I love it.
Kind of paraphrasing a little bit here. I don't remember who said this, but it's, hard work and dedication will beat talent 100% of the time. You can have all the athletic ability and skill and talent in the world, but if that dude next to you is willing to stay longer, work harder and really own it, make it a part of his existence, in the end, that guy's going to find success, and when you see the guys that have the combination of all of that, that's when they're really dangerous, right? That's that like Kobe Bryant Mamba level type intensity that you're looking for when you see a professional athlete. So it looks like Jacob Monk's got 60 to 65% of that covered right now, and hopefully he continues to grow and develop as a pro and turns into an asset for us on that O-line.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And again, talking culture, talking, Jacob Monk, that's how the offensive line coach, Coach Buckus, sees Jacob Monk, this rookie, like, hey, this dude is going out there ready to hit somebody, ready to tear somebody up. There was one clip, I can't remember who tweeted it out. It was one of the local beat writers, I'm pretty sure. They tweeted out a clip of him throwing a guy on the ground, Jacob Monk throwing a guy on the ground. And listen, that's not to say that he had a great game. I think we would all agree it was kind of mediocre, but as a rookie, you get there and you kind of hold your own in your first preseason game. But when you get on the field as a rookie and you're throwing defensive linemen on the ground, really says a lot about the attitude. Now, another thing that came out, Jason Vrabel, wide receiver coach, I think he's the passing game coordinator as well, said, let's see, this was Matt Schneiden, said, Jason Vrabel says LaFleur showed a couple of clips of Grant DuBose blocking Saturday to the team to demonstrate model plays. We've seen him make plenty of nice catches this preseason, but it's that aspect of his game that will earn him a roster spot. I'm telling you, man, this team, Tim, you're seeing a common theme, are you not, man?
Yeah, it's what I felt opening day, man. There's something in the air, man, around this team, around this facility, around these guys. And Grant DuBose and the way he's kind of just what's the good adjective here? His ascension, the Phoenix rising, from the ashes of an injury-laden season last year, opportunities taken away from him through no fault of his own, really. And he is just on the rise. And he is not the only player that we could say that about right now. We can go up and down this roster, top, middle, and bottom end, and find guys that are trending in the right direction. And this is where we want to be as a football team. I said it before, I'll say it again. I will say it all year with confidence. I believe we will bring Lombardi home. It's not this is our year type of mentality. I just feel like the pieces are coming together. The staff is coming together. Like you talk about culture and vision and protecting what it means to be a Green Bay Packer in 2024 right now. The intensity level is up. Communication is at an all-time high. Mistakes are being made. Guys are learning from them very quickly. I think we're contending this year, ladies and gentlemen. And it looks like Grant DuBose is going to, play a pretty key role in that this year. I don't know if it's safe to say that he's basically leapfrogged Malik Heath yet. That might be a bit early. We'll see how this week plays out, though. I'll tell you, I'm excited to be at practice tomorrow and watch particularly this bottom end receiver battle. In addition to the progression of Michael Pratt as he chases down a potential spot as QB2. It's kind of a long shot for a rookie, right? But he's not hurting himself, certainly, I don't think, with his play. So a lot to look forward to here as a fan.
Yeah.
You heard it from a fan.
We got a lot of people filing in here on YouTube. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. If you would hit that like button, help us boost the algorithm and land on a lot of other Packer fans' homepages. We appreciate y'all chilling with us here this evening, just talking a little Packers. Coach Lynn said, I like him a bunch. Monk is our next steal like Tom was. Man, I hope you're right, Coach, because if somehow, some way he proves to be just close to what Zach Tom has kind of grown and developed into, we got another dog on that offensive line.
That's who I thought of when you were talking about Monk like pancaking that dude. It was like I thought of the infamous Zach Tom clip. Yeah. Was that Zach Tom or was that Rasheed Walker that did the hump move?
The hump move
not the Reggie White hump move, but
it was the Reggie White hump move was PG. This was PG-13 at best. Probably closer to rated R, to be honest with you, Tim. That was Rasheed Walker. It's just
I get it. I got it mixed up. My bad,
bro. I've watched football for a very, very, very long time. That's the first time I'd ever seen a lineman pancake somebody and hit them with the old hump move. But it's first time for everything, I guess. Let's see. We had a question from Andy APAC. Let me drop this down real quick. So Andy APAC in the house. Good to see you, buddy. He said, I had a question based on a recent episode. You said that the cover 2 should have been expected. I am wondering what are schematic changes makes Hafley different from Barry? Sorry if dumb. Not a dumb question at all, Andy. Here, the quick answer is and it's not going to be quick. You guys know it's not going to be quick. I'm sure. There are some fans that will lead you to believe like this defensive coordinator is running a totally different defense than this one. And it's like they don't run the same plays. Every defense in the National Football League run the same plays. It's just who's running these plays more than the other. You know, we pointed out that when it come to man coverage, there were some people that had unrealistic expectations, including local beat writers, right? They were kind of, we're going to see a lot more man. And I'm watching tape going, I don't know how much more man y'all are expecting to see. And then the other thing was you're going to be playing more single high. And I'm going, we played the 5th most single high coverage in the entire National Football League last year.
Yeah.
Saying we're going to be top 3 now. Like, and the reason being is not understanding pre-snap and post-snap and all that. And to try to answer your question in the quickest manner possible here, Andy, when we said the cover 2, it wasn't that it was a cover 2 defense. It was a too high shell pre-snap look, which is what Barry was notorious for. And what I was trying to say is every defensive coordinator in the league would prefer showing the same too high deep safety look every play, whether they're sugaring or not, and rotating into a different style of defense, because it deters the offense from taking a shot play down the seam. Essentially what you're saying is you can't attack the boundaries and you can't attack the seams, because there's two seams to say. I know there's one seam on a football field, but you're trying to attack 2 different spaces. And if you've got a quarter coverage look, you've basically got deep quarter, then that really, with your eyes on the quarterback, reading the receiver, you know, the quarterback through the receiver type thing, it deters quarterbacks and offensive coordinators from taking those shot plays, right?
Yep.
So what I was trying to say is like, that's not going to change. Now, to answer your question, what's going to change? We're now in a 4-3 defense, which is predominantly one gap responsibility against the run.
That's the schematic change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As opposed to the 34 jam where you got a 5-man front and your 3 defensive linemen are playing 2 gaps, and the edges, the outside linebackers, are really responsible for holding that edge. And you're supposed to allow your linebackers to flow in and make the play. That's why when you go to a 34 defense, and I think Pittsburgh Steelers the last 20 years, the defensive linemen haven't been that effective. Who has? TJ Watt. Who has? Yeah. James Harrison, outside linebackers, right? And inside linebackers too, Joey Porter back in the day, who was kind of a hybrid, right? And the reason being is those big 300-pound defensive linemen, their responsibility is to engage and control 2 gaps. So they're sliding horizontally. They're not shooting the gap and getting in the backfield. And your linebackers are supposed to be aggressive and come up while they're holding those 2 gaps and make the play, right? The problem was Devondre Campbell wasn't very good at attacking out of a 34. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Now, what changes with the 4-3? With the 4-3 defense, no longer is it engage and hold these 2 gaps. It's you've got the A gap, you've got the B gap, you've got the C gap. Get through the gap as quick as possible. Play the run on your way to the quarterback. Now, again, there's give and take with every different style of defense. With that style of defense, you're going to run yourself out of a play. That's going to happen from time to time, and you're going to give up an explosive play on the ground. You're going to see that. You kind of see Brenton Cox Jr. the other day, him running past the ball carrier because he's just getting upfield, as opposed to in the past, the 34 jam, you know, those big hog mollies in the middle are going to hold 2 gaps, and you got to set the edge and then work your way to the quarterback type thing, especially if there's a chance of a running play. So that's the biggest change. Now, the other thing that's going to change, Joe Barry was a linebackers coach. It's no coincidence, and many fans like to forget that our linebacking was horrible. Joe Barry comes in and makes Devondre Campbell an all-pro year 1. Bang. Dude had done nothing anywhere else. He was a linebacker coach. Now, the problem is teams adjust, and now our defense becomes a little bit vulnerable. And as you try to adjust on the fly, the way that Joe Barry tried to adjust is to add depth to the rules of his coverage, playing a lot of match defense, meaning if and then. If the number 2 goes vert, all right, that now turns into man coverage beyond a 7-yard threshold. If the number 2 goes to the flat, now I drop into a hook zone. Like, And your guys have got to be able to read and react that. And our guys didn't adjust to that. Now, you can sit here and blame Barry for that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the defensive coordinator's job to have his players ready. You also got to look at the DB coaches. So what changes with Hafley is this dude's a DB whisperer.
Yeah.
So now,
so is Derek Ansley.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you could tell. And what did we talk about? Like on this show, what we tried to do as soon as the season's over, rather than go, here's our Mount Rushmore of hamburger joints, we immediately went, okay, where do we take a step back in every aspect of the game last year? And the big thing was pass defense, believe it or not. We got a little bit better against run defense. That's what a 34 jam should do. And we got a little bit worse in pass defense, right? So the adjustment that LaFleur made, you go hire a DB whisperer, then you go pluck a former defensive coordinator and add him as your DB coach. And then when it comes to the linebacking core, the byproduct may be the linebackers might slip a little bit. But what do? They combed the league and said, this Anthony Campanile cat down here in Miami is one hot head. This dude, let's bring him in to keep our linebackers engaged. So that's the thing that I think is going to change the most with Jeff Hafley's defense. Another thing was they're going to be way more aggressive. They're going to get exotic with their blitzes. Guys, we had exotic blitzes last year. You want to know what exotic blitz is? Overload blitz and dropping Preston Smith into coverage. That's as exotic as it gets. Like you've got edge defender dropping into coverage. That's the definition of exotic blitz, bringing a fire zone blitz from one area overload and then dropping one of your edge defenders into coverage, right?
Right. Rushing 6 or 7 is not exotic.
And if Hafley is going to mimic or try to take a good portion of Robert Saleh and these other coaches that he's kind of comes from their tree, the thing they do is they play a 4-man rush. They get pressure with 4, and they like to show an overload look where they'll put 3 of their pass rushers overloaded to one side to force an isolation on one edge defender on the opposite side. And typically you will flip that to where that one isolation edge defender can get pressure on a quarterback in the face of the side of the concept, the side of the field that they like to attack specifically. Meaning the answer is, depending on their opponent, that's what's going to determine which side that overload's coming from, right? Yeah. And you're trying to free up that isolation. So that's the biggest thing with me. I think the DBs are going to be more physical. You already seen it in preseason. Eric Stokes, Kalen King, hitting like linebackers. We've never seen Kalen King. This is our first experience, but Eric Stokes, we're familiar with him, and there's some pop to his game right now. And I haven't seen that at all, at least not as a professional. Maybe we can go back and look at some Georgia tape. But in the green and gold, I haven't seen him hitting like this. It's like, a lot of that is mental too, right? You got to commit, man. You got to be willing to go out there and lay a guy out, and it's refreshing. I'll tell you that. It's refreshing to see it. Thank you, Carly. I sometimes I feel like I'm speaking Chinese, and I am the worst communicator on the face of the freaking earth. So thank you for saying that made sense, because I'm sitting there going, I am probably sounding like an idiot right now, but I appreciate that. Ron Sample here too. This is a great comment, Tim, and the chat is lit up. Y'all are awesome. Here's one right here. Ron Sample says, rallying to the ball gives the D-backs confidence to be more aggressive and tackle downhill instead of waiting for the ball carrier. And I heard this too. LaFleur says snapshots of some tackles showed 11 players in the snapshot.
Yep.
And when you look last year, you never seen that. To me, that's not a knock against the DC. That's a knock against the players. Like, hey, listen, he has the ball. The name of the game is see ball, get ball, right? If you're playing back and you're not, attacking the ball, I promise you there was no one in that coaching staff last year going, hey, listen, guys, don't worry about tackling. Let him get him. One guy's enough. They're not coaching like that. But the point is, Derek Ansley, Anthony Campanile, Ogabasi, Jeff Hafley. And you notice Jeff Hafley doesn't get all animated and everything. Jeff Hafley's like the mad scientist sitting back going, hey, boys, go get him. Go get after him. And these guys, you've seen it firsthand, Tim.
Oh, yeah. He's hands-on. He's passionate, but you're right. He's not a fire and brimstone guy. He's got enforcers. We just named a a good chunk of those guys that have been brought in to, keep the piss hot, as Matt LaFleur would say. That's their job. But Hafley, another thing, going back to, Andy's question too, is he was very transparent in his initial presser when he got here that, he was going to add some versatility too. He wanted to be unpredictable. He wanted to have some versatility. So it leads me to believe that just when you think you're seeing something consistently, that he's going to be on top of it and switch it up and make sure that we're not getting predictable. Another thing he's going to do probably more often than we saw with a Joe Barry defense is we talked about this last night on the pod, pre-snap versus post-snap. What you're showing, you're showing that quarterback and that offense only what you want them to see, and you want to time it to the point that you get to the defensive set you want to be in when it's too late for them to make a change. It sounds simple. It's not. It's easier said than done. There's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things that can go wrong. But when teams do that effectively and consistently, they boat race their opponent a lot. We've seen it in Kansas City. You've mentioned, Belichick and the Patriots were notorious for that. And it's kind of a staple in the NFL, but there are teams and defenses that do it better than others. And there's nothing worse than going out there showing cover 2 and the quarterback knowing you're going to switch to single high. And then it's like, now what? Your deception is no longer working. So I think Hafley he's a mad scientist. You're right. He's a technical guy too, just as much as he is a hands-on guy. And it'll be interesting to see. We talked about this earlier. You think Haf will be in the booth, or do you think he's a sideline?
Oh, that's a great question.
Kind of guy.
Me personally, I don't know why a coordinator would want to be on the field.
Yeah.
I would want the bird's eye view. You're communicating, and people say, well, they need to be down there in the mix. They need to be involved. Listen, I can't remember who was it that said it. Might have been Lombardi. I'm not here to motivate you. If I have to I will fire you before I motivate you. Yep. Like, if I have to motivate you to get excited to play the game of football, you're not what we're looking for.
You don't belong here.
Mike Tomlin said the same thing. I want volunteers, not hostages, right? So I want my coordinators up in the booth, in the box, so they can see everything. And all the emotion is, here's the reality. Like, all week long, in preparation for your upcoming opponent, you've looked at tendencies. You've watched the 4-game saturation, the previous 4-game saturation of your opponent. You probably watched the last two head-to-head against that opponent, right? So you've watched the saturation of 6 games, 4 of their most recent, 2 specifically geared toward attacking your schemes, both offensively and defensively. And you sat down and said, okay, here's the players we got. Here's how we need to attack them. Yeah, we need to utilize that. All right, here's the 3 passing concepts they use the most, the route combinations. Okay, how can we attack that? All right, yeah, cover 3 fits that. Let's play a lot of cover 3. Okay, cool. Here's the weak spot on their defensive line. All right, what if we try to run a couple of TE stunts on this side since they're weak there? And you put this whole game plan together. And then it comes game day, and you're on the sideline, and everybody's emotionally charged, and they're coming over going, Coach, I can do this, I can do that. Shut the hell up. We spent hundreds of man hours all week long putting this game plan together. And because someone's fiery and emotional and they want an opportunity, they're going to – no. That's why I want my coordinators in the box focused on the game plan. Yeah. Bill Belichick said it all the time, man. He said that him and Parcells used to get it. You can watch some old NFL films clips of those 2 cats getting into it. You never seen him raise his voice to Parcells once, but Parcells just ate his lunch all the time. And they asked him about it, and Belichick said, when you're in the heat of battle like that, you give an order and you take an order. There's no time to have a conversation about it.
Yep.
It's, hey, look, here's what we're doing. Everybody do your job, get on board, right? That's what makes Bill Belichick such a great leader. But Andy Apac said, what a great answer. Simplest terms, disguise pre-snap, then simplify the responsibility post-snap for the D-line, and the DBs are physical. Man, I feel like I need to learn more about the X's and O's. The beautiful thing, Andy, there's not been a new defense invented. There hasn't been. Like, you've got 2 styles of defense: man coverage, zone. Within man, you've got 0, or what I refer to as goose on Chalk Talk. That's 0 coverage, means there's no safeties deep. Everybody's man coverage. If you're not covering a man, you're blitzing the quarterback. That's what we call 0. You've got cover 1. where you've got one safety deep, everyone else is man coverage across the board. You're probably bringing 5 rushers depending on how many guys are in the route. You've got cover 1 hole, where it's typically one safety deep. The other safety's playing man coverage, either on the slot or on the most of the time the tight end or a running back. And you've got a linebacker dropping into a mid zone in the middle. So you're taking away the center of the field, man coverage across the board, right? You've got cover 1 robber, where it's typically you'll show a 2 high set, ball snap, one safety will rob. He'll come down and play robber into the middle of the field. So rather than have the whole play where the linebacker is dropping back like a rack coverage, you've got a safety flying down into the box, robbing down into the box to cover that mid zone. So you got single high, where they still cover 1 man. You've got cover 2 man across the board, 4-man rush. If you're in a quarter look, then you'll typically have a 3-man rush, but you got 2 safeties responsible for deep halves. The way you play 2-man under, and the reason it's called 2-man under, is you play underneath leverage, meaning as the man cover corner or safety or linebacker, I'm taking away the underneath route, and we're trying to funnel it over the top into that safeties, into those 2 safeties, right? That's all your man coverage looks. Yep. Now you've got exotic blitzes where you'll do like a silver shoot, or you'll do a double A gap mug, and you'll fire those 2 A gap. That's still, guess what that is? That's 0 man.
Yep.
So it's where the blitz is coming from. In zone defense, you've typically got cover 4. Okay. With that, you've got quarters and zone match. We've talked about zone match. I won't go into all the details. You've got
the whole season talking about that.
Right. Exactly. Cover 3 deep zones, right? Deep third, deep third, deep third, deep third. Okay. And then you've got typically it's your 7 in coverage is the goal, 4-man rush, 7 in coverage. So you got 3 up top and 4 underneath with a little blanket coverage there. So you've got your quarters, you've got your cover 3, you've got cover 2, where you've got 5 blanket underneath zones and only 2 up top. Now that's a little more vulnerable to the pass. Then you've got your Tampa 2, where it's the same as a cover 2, but the mock will cover deep down the seam to take that spot away. By the way, to the best of my knowledge, Tony Dungy invented that defense in Tampa Bay to stop Brett Favre, because they used to attack the seam. Hearing Mark Chmura talk about that, Tim, is hilarious. He hates Tony Dungy with a passion, because that was his money play, was that seam shot. And Tony Dungy started taking it away, walking the mock out with the seam with Tampa 2. I won't bore you with all the details of every defense, but you get the gist. None of that changed. Now it's how are you coaching it? Now Nick Saban, along with Red 2 that him and Belichick developed as a red zone defense that is unbelievable. You want to go down a rabbit hole, just type in Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, Red 2, and pack a lunch, because you're going to find all kinds of stuff online that talks about the principles and the rules that go along with that style of defense. You've got that aspect. But one thing that Saban did with his quarters look, and Coach Lynn's probably heard of this, you've got triangle and you've got box. Everything in football is a numbers game. The goal is to stay 1 hat up on your opponent, meaning 1 player more than they have attacking that specific zone, that specific area, or defending that specific area. So what he would do, if you've got 2 receivers on one side of the field, they would play triangle on that side. 3 defenders forming a triangle over top of those receivers, okay? If they've got 3 receivers, a trip set, a bunch set, a tray set, then you play box. 4 defenders forming a box over those guys. And you're keeping them in that box and let them make the mistake. That goes along with that zone match type stuff. There's some really cool videos out there if you do enough combing where you can study Nick Saban's defense at Alabama and how he had all that success. But anyway, that's the point is, it is very simple, Andy. It sounds way more complex than it is. I'm telling you. If I can understand this stuff this much, you guys and gals are smart enough to blow me away.
Hey, that's a big thing in scheme, right? Illusion of complexity. We've talked about that before. It's so doggone simple. We got to make it look complicated just so we can hide what we're doing.
Exactly. Coach Lynn asked, who wore the green dot on Saturday? I have no clue. Tim, have you heard it? Was it Quay?
Quay Walker.
I haven't heard it. So you
I saw it with my own eyes. I saw
Let's
a green
go.
dot on his helmet. So I'll verify that. You can rake me over the coals if I'm delusional, but I'm 99% sure I saw Quay with the green dot.
We need to get Smitty on that. Smitty, I need you to comb through the footage and see if we can find that.
The real question is who had the dot when Quay rotated out and wasn't on the field? That's the real question.
Yeah, definitely. Great question, though, Coach. If anybody knows the answer to that, throw it in there. I trust you, Tim. If you've seen the green dot, you've seen the green dot. That would be my guess because that's how Green Bay has always operated. They've never had a safety wear the green dot, to the best of my knowledge, even when they had like Nick Collins. And I don't even know if the green dot was a thing back then, to be honest with you. It may have been. But I know AJ wore it. AJ Hawk wore it for sure. He was definitely the green dot. So, all right, good stuff there. All right, let's see. Greg Rice says, I'm so glad I understand these defensive calls now. Thank you, Packers Total Access to Clayton. Hey, thank you, buddy. Thank you, man. I'm glad that made sense because I don't want to waste your all's time for sure. Sometimes you try to explain stuff and you can't. You know what I mean? In my mind, I see it perfect, but it's whether or not I'm intelligent enough to communicate. That's the part that sucks. So I'll tell you who is intelligent. It's this man right here. This was cool. We were talking about the defense being aggressive. He was talking about Javon Bullard here in this safety group. Great question. I wish I knew who asked it. But someone asked this question here. Check it out, what he had to say about Javon Bullard.
Hey, Matt, what most excited you about watching Javon and Evan there in the, in that safety competition? I know that's going to be key throughout the rest of the camp.
I'm not used to hearing him called Javon, so you threw me one right there. I'm like, who are you talking about? Bullard? Bull?
There's a confirmation. Nickname is Bull. All right.
Yeah. So I just think both those guys, they love football. They're instinctive. They're smart. They've got a pretty good grasp of what we're asking them to do right now. And I thought they were both showed physicality at the point of attack, which is something that we desperately need. I think a lot of times, you think about just the big guys, there's an expectation that they are going to be physical players. And when you get that from your skill group, whether it's the receivers or DBs, I think it changes the whole complexion of your team.
It's so true, man. Like when you get aggressive players in there like that, and especially a couple young whippersnappers like Javon Bullard and Evan Williams, it's got a lot of fire under these guys. And I'm sure you guys seen the Keyshawn Nixon exchange with the fan earlier today on Twitter. Oh my gosh. I don't understand why people want to go on Twitter and argue with players. I just don't get it. At the same time, I also don't understand why players want to take the time to argue with fans. It's like nothing got accomplished there. But I think that when you add two young players like Evan Williams and Javon Bullard, and then maybe even Katana Ladapo, he may turn out to be just as good or better than both those guys. It really just changes the whole culture, Tim, because you got two young guys like Bullard. You heard him say it. I don't like that word comfortable because as soon as you get comfortable, you lose your job. And I don't even have a job right now. Like he's going in. Everybody is pretty much saying he's going to be the safety alongside X, and he doesn't see it like that. It's like, I got to earn this. Culture's huge, man. Pretty cool what Coach had to say about the two young safeties there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Bullard's got the right attitude, man. You get comfortable, you're going to get chased down by the person that's gaining on you. There's always somebody waiting in the wings, willing to work as hard or harder than you are and wants it just as much or more than you do. So you have to keep yourself motivated, and you have to never accept your position where you're at. And even if you are, look at the great players in our league. You got guys that are 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12-time Pro Bowlers. I'm sure none of those guys felt comfortable in their career. They went out every single game and played their guts out. So, to see that in a young, what is he, 21, something like that, 20-year-old kid, he's got his head screwed on straight. And again, you are going to fit in really well in Green Bay if that is your attitude. There has been a cultural shift towards the end of the Rodgers era, we'll say, and into this new generation Matt LaFleur era with Jordan Love at the helm. And you can see it. Leadership is abundant on this team. It's a team full of leaders, really, and guys that are playing for each other. And it's awesome, man. Yeah.
Ron Sample says, sounds like Nixon will be motivated. There's no two ways about that, man. He's ready to prove some people wrong. And that's what competition does, man.
We're ready to see it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Waiting to see K9 shut him down in the slot.
Yep.
Been waiting a couple years for that. Hopefully this is the year.
Yeah, there it is. Coach Lynn said, "Did you see the tweet from Nixon today?" I did, Coach. That's what we were kind of referring to here. Prince said Nixon been reading the PTA chat. Oh man,
what's up, Keyshawn? If you're listening, how's it going, man? See you tomorrow at practice.
He ain't listening. He said that's like hearing nails on a chalkboard. That dude with that redneck accent. You kidding me?
Keyshawn said, "I don't speak redneck."
I sure hope he comes out and balls out, man. But like we say on this show, if you see it, you got to say it. Yeah. I always try to say it in a respectful way. I can't stand it when people, he's trash, and it's like, bro, you wouldn't say that to his face. Come on, let's not do that. That's that. Now there's some that they get drunk and they go live and they shout it to the hills, and the next thing you know, they're on their soapbox like, you guys need to stop disrespecting people. It's like, you don't remember what you said on that stream last night. You were 3 sheets to the wind and don't remember a damn thing you said. You're out here preaching to people that they need to be. It's hilarious. Anyway, so that being said, one last thing here we'll share real quick. Coach LaFleur talking about Devonte Wyatt. Tim, what I seen from Devonte Wyatt, and granted it was just one preseason game, I think this dude is about to have a hell of a year. He's going to be in the backfield so much with his physical ability. When they ran a TE stunt, meaning the defensive tackle crashed out on 2 offensive linemen to free up a looping defensive end, and he still beat the double team and got in the backfield. Bro, I'm just telling you, he's looking like the real deal this year. This is going to fit him in this scheme. And here's what Coach LaFleur had to say about it.
In this next game as well.
What about Wyatt? Where do you think he's made the jump, and why is he a good fit for what you guys want to do up there?
I just think his explosiveness is one of the traits that we loved about him coming out of Georgia, and I think there's a lot of less read and react in this defense. It's more attack, get off the ball, create havoc, and we saw that on I think it was on Van Ness's sack, I believe. So he got in there. The slide was actually going to working to Devonte, and he was able to fly past the center and get the quarterback off his spot and flush to the quarterback's left, and Van Ness was there for the sack.
So what he's talking about there, the slide was to Wyatt's side. They were sliding the protection to help double team Devonte Wyatt in his side of the ball, and Devontae's still being disrupted. Again, he's not built for a 34 jam. You're wasting his talent and ability. It's why many teams who played a 34 jam back in the day, unless it was a generational talent or someone like and I'm not saying he's generational, but someone like B.J. Raji. B.J. Raji was worthy of a first-round pick. This is the guy who's going to anchor us at nose in this new 34 scheme as they were changing over with Dom Capers. Mm-hmm. But who was someone else they went out to add? Howard Green that year. Howard Green is the quintessential 34 jam defensive lineman, right? Devonte Wyatt is a quick pass rushing 300-pound defensive lineman, not a guy who's going to be stout, hold the line of attack, play 2 gaps. You're wasting his quickness, his superpower. You're wasting it in a 34 jam, right? So I think Wyatt's going to pop here, Tim. I really do. I think you're looking at everything that we were talking about, trying to find a true 3 tech. They extended Kenny. They still see him as that for at least the next 2 years, possibly 3. But I think what they're really hoping for is Devonte Wyatt to kind of rise to the occasion this year and go, okay, there's our next 3 tech. Let's get ready to extend him. But let's get your thoughts on that. We'll get ready to wrap this thing up.
Oh, I love it. Devonte Wyatt was the first name that came to mind when I thought of what I saw last year at camp, which was Kenny Clark keeping the boys after practice day after day, staying for an extra 30 minutes, hitting the sleds, doing drills, working on hand placement and technique. Obviously, that was a different system we were in last year. But the bigger thing I gather is Devonte Wyatt is he's really learning from Kenny Clark as far as when it comes to the preparation aspect. And this is a guy who's bought into the idea of, like we talked about a few minutes ago, being self-motivated, wanting to improve, wanting to get better, wanting to learn. And it's paying off. We're starting to see that, especially with Devonte Wyatt. We're seeing it with TJ Slayton as well. another guy who, I think we talked about TJ was probably maybe better suited for the 34, but he's finding a home in this 4-3 scheme, it seems like, at least early on. That's a name ringing bells in camp right now as well. So it's exciting to be excited about our D-line group and to know that we've got a pass rush, we've got a run defense, we've got depth at middle linebacker, and we've got a bona fide legit safety room. And the secondary looks well patrolled and protected. So I'm fired up about our defense through and through. But Devonte Wyatt is just another guy on that list of young players that are on the rise. And it's going to be fun to watch this year.
Yeah, definitely. Ron Sample says Wyatt split that double team with ease. He's so quick for a big man. That's the thing about his game, and that first step is just deadly. He uses his hands pretty well too. Eric Sutherland in the chat said Wyatt going to ball out this year. Completely agree, Bob. That's what we're hoping for, man. Can't wait to see it happen.
Can you imagine that LVN and Devonte Wyatt just simultaneously having breakout years?
Oh,
for ferocious defensive line in Green Bay. I love it.
Definitely. Respect Orange just says, is it Sunday yet? I want to watch what else the D can do. Absolutely, man. And what's crazy is we've seen the vanilla version of this defense too. We haven't seen the true version yet. We're just seeing kind of that vanilla. They're not going to show too much. Where you're going to probably see a little bit more is that joint practice that's coming up here. Respect Oranges. And I know we're not going to see it, but we're going to hear people tweeting about it. On the 22nd. Now, they've got another joint practice in Denver. Am I thinking right, Tim?
I believe so. I think that's how it rolls. There's usually one right before the game.
I heard somebody say that. I could be wrong.
Because I know when New England was here last year, I believe that was just one day. It was just one joint practice, and then we had the preseason game and all of that fun stuff.
Greg Rice said, if we're playing a lot of vanilla D in the preseason, I can't wait to see what when it gets turned up. And then he said, Clayton, get out of my head. There you go, man. Great minds think alike, my man. Let's see. Holmes MD1 says Wyatt reminds me of Kenny a lot. So many very good interior defensive line for the Pack. Yeah, and again, it's all about how you build that roster, man. You want to build that blueprint out. It's what Michael Lombardi talks about, modeling your roster. You want to make sure you've definitely got a 3-tech. If you think you have a 3-tech, you don't have a 3-tech. Okay, you don't. You know if you have a 3-tech. If you've got a 3-tech, they are disruptive against the pass. They shut down the run. They do everything. Thank Aaron Donald. I know he's generational. I got it. Thank Casey Hampton with Pittsburgh for forever. He may still be in the league. I'm not sure. B.J. Raji, that's a true. He was a nose, but if you were in a 4-3 and you put him at a 3-tech or you're in a nickel, you put him at a 3-tech, he can do everything. He can get after the quarterback. He could even drop into coverage on fire zone blitzes and get a pick six too. Shake that big rump. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
he did have one of the best touchdown dances though. That one that he had. We love it. I hope BJ's doing well, man, out there, whatever he's doing nowadays.
Yeah, dude, that's a guy that's worth mentioning. I'll drop his down for a second. He's disappeared.
Yeah.
He said, you know what? I'm done with football. Now, I know his parents ran a Pentecostal church, I believe. Okay. So he might be involved with that. But I have personally tried to comb through everything on the internet just to see what he's doing now,
Yeah.
He is just disappeared. And good for him, man. He'll live your life, right? So anyway, Saturday,
nothing like grabbing a Super Bowl ring and then just riding off into the sunset, right?
Absolutely, man. You kidding me? Any better than that? So here's what we're looking at, gang. Tomorrow, the 13th, we got a practice. Tim, did you say you were going to be there? Is that right?
I will be there.
Oh, man. So you got an open practice tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Central. And then on Wednesday, another open practice at 10:30 a.m. Central. And then the Packers are off I say off. They're not off. There's not going to be another open practice to the best of our knowledge for the next 3 days. And then on Sunday, they will be playing 7 p.m. Central Time at the Denver Broncos. So that's going to be a lot of fun to see what they can do against Denver. And obviously going out there, I think they said there was going to be some joint practices, but obviously it doesn't show here on the schedule. So I don't want to mislead y'all. Do that research yourself and see if they actually are.
I think it would depend on once we nail down when the travel day is. That'll probably give us an idea if they're getting out there in time to actually get a joint practice in before the game.
I see you're right.
Yeah. So we'll see how early they head out of town. And Coach LaFleur is known for giving guys a little breather before they take off. Little
Definitely.
breather, as in sit down and watch film, go get your treatments, work out, hit the weight room. That kind of day off. So we'll see what happens.
Yes, get some treatment that's just excruciating pain most of the time, right? And watching an iPad while you're doing it. Yeah, there's your day off, bub. Enjoy that. It's not like me sitting on the couch eating French fries watching college football or something. You know what I'm saying? On my off day. So
dialing up a cover 0 on that NC2A football, huh?
There you go. So everybody, if you would hit that like button for us. We did finally go live on X. I'm sure it was just the traffic going on. I'm not even going to mention it. There's a lot of stuff going on X tonight. If you know, you know. And everybody's welcome here. But I appreciate y'all in the comments mentioning that's probably what it was. I guarantee you that's what it was, because there was probably millions and millions watching that.
It was a lot of people. They're not photoshopped.
Okay.
Big shout out to everybody that made it over to YouTube too. I see we've got almost we got Bobby Anderson in the house. The numbers are good, man. Everybody made it over and found us, so that's awesome. Shout out to everybody on Rumble and in YouTube. Please click that like button. That'll help us get this stream to everybody else too. So we appreciate it.
Definitely. All right, guys, that's it. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Tim, if you would help me out here, sir.
Oh yeah, we can't do this without this.
For those of you listening on the pod,
thank you for making us part of your day, and I mean that seriously. Everyone who's listening on the podcast, you are the lifeblood of what we do here. YouTube is just kind of the extra visualization. We could throw stuff up on the screen, but those that are listening on the podcast, you're the lifeblood of what we do. We appreciate you supporting PackerNet and everything we're doing over there. If you guys normally just watch on YouTube, you can scan that QR code right there in the upper right. That'll send you to PackerNet Podcast, where you can find this in podcast form, as well as Ryan Schlip's PackerNet Podcast, Jake Shavink's It's Always Draft Season Podcast, and, of course, PackerNet After Dark. We got an awesome slate of shows on there, and feel free to subscribe to it wherever you get your podcasts at there. So, again, thanks, everybody. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Go Pack, go.